Can you talk about how your experience in covering national security overlaps with this? Because so much of this seems like it's like almost CIA propaganda. It touched on it a little bit, but just the scale and the scope of and the breadth of Amazon's influence and power, it's largely unrivaled, I would say.
Yeah, and when you talk to spooks in the FBI, see, I was talking to a friend of mine in the FBI maybe a year ago or so, and he was like palpably envious of the power that Amazon had. He said, "You guys think that we're tough, tough cookie. Like I wish we could do what Google and Amazon does." He says this sort of very cryptically, and I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "They have capabilities that we couldn't dream of." And the reality is, they own so much of the tech and internet infrastructure that they probably can see a whole lot of what's going on. I know that in my law enforcement sources, a lot of what they're going off of, their subpoenas, they're just subpoenaing these companies that are hoovering up massive amounts of data about all of us. And that's really where I think primarily the threat to privacy is coming from, not from the state, but from these companies that almost think of themselves as these sort of mini nation states in how not just they conduct themselves, but how they try to burrow like termites into the foundations of governments, not just domestically, but overseas. And talking to people, they were describing to me how they were trying to manipulate governments in Europe to try to establish a legal apparatus favorable to the set types of products that they're selling and exporting, these kind of things. They really are operating as sort of mini states. And the country needs to have a serious discussion about antitrust law and how we start to implement that in a serious fashion, because the amount of power after coronavirus, look at the profits that guys like Bezos and these companies, they're just zooming. All these small businesses that died, they've been replaced with these companies. So they're even more powerful than they've been before, even after this catastrophe that so many people lost power and money in any sort of measurable sense. So that's really what all this illustrates, I think, is the awesome power that these almost robber baron type business institutions now have and are able to wield over our politics and the public.
Lastly, where do you think it goes from here? I guess the Democratic Party's approach, and this is just really an editorial question for you, to tech companies like Amazon, because you have Joe Biden speaking out in favor of the unionization effort. And then at the same time, though, the reason that these companies have gotten so large is in part due to the fact that they donated so much money to the Democratic Party, and there's been that cozy relationship. Where do you see this going?
Well, there are two directions. Emma, when I was your age, we had a Democratic Party that, under George Bush, for instance, there really wasn't much in the way of a progressive caucus. I'm not saying that there weren't certain progressive tendencies within it, but they weren't organized, and it wasn't large enough to provide a sort of check against, the number of blue dog Democrats, it's the word they had then for these kind of centrist, kind of like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema kind of thing, was just overwhelming. And the power they wielded was overwhelming. There was never any question of, what is the conflict? Who's going to win here, in the way that we're having with these kind of bills where, the 15 an hour failed, but there were other concessions. At least there's a kind of, there's at least a sort of competition, a conflict, a debate around these sort of things now. And I think much is the same, much the same case with Amazon and how we're going to prosecute. The Justice Department is in the middle of a huge, I can't remember, maybe it was the SEC. They're in the middle of a big investigation related to all this, because when you integrate, they have control of internet delivery, logistics, all these different things. It very clearly is monopoly, and there are all sorts of legal issues that come with that. So not only is the situation right for facing something like that, but we are starting to have what looks like, particularly in the House, a not insignificant wing of the party that has a different view than what perhaps the Chuck Schumers and Mansions and things of the past would have. So that's really up in the air. I don't know what's going to happen with that. There's at least a fighting chance now. But as you see with cases like this, and as you said, for Biden to come out and make that statement, there are detractors who say, it wasn't strong enough. Of course, I'm never going to be happy. I want him to be out there fighting for every strike at the tiniest company, but so I agree with you. Always push for more. That said, this was really extraordinary. I don't think we've seen anything like that certainly in my lifetime. for a president to come out and make a statement like that. And Amazon is terrified. I can tell you from the people inside that they are, this is a modern day pharaoh. He's the richest man on the planet. Company's worth over $1 trillion. So enormous power, but they wouldn't be as scared as they are if there wasn't a credible threat and if there wasn't some chance that this unionization push can work. And I think it can. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this irrational behavior. I think it's driven by fear and anxiety over, oh God, what if it starts? What if it spreads? What if people start unionizing in other places? What's going to happen? And that's really why I think we're seeing this crazy overreaction in the form of the tweets and the public statements and all of that. So there's something's changing here.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Ken Klippenstein, reporter at The Intercept. Please check out his great work and all of his pieces, including these 3 ones on Amazon and all the scoops he got. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Ken.
My pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.